Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's my honor today to have on our session of Guppastik, Professor Dr. Gerd Taube. Here in Germany, we have the German National Center for Children and Youth Theatre. This is a center which basically works to promote the practice and the practitioners from the field of theatre for children and art. And Professor Dr. Taube is the director of this center. So as a PhD student from the Mumbai University, when I wrote to Professor Taube 2 years back regarding my research in children's theatre, the Grips theatre, he agreed to guide my work in Germany. And ever since then, I have had the opportunity of following the work of this center here in Germany. And I have learned a lot from Professor Taube. He is also the artistic director of the German Theatre Festival, Children and Youth Theatre Festival, a biennial called Augenblick mal, translated as Just a Moment. And Professor Taube has several publications in this field, and he is also the founder director of the puppet theater in Berlin called the Schaubude Berlin. So it is a big pleasure for me and for my group Sehar, Professor Taube, to have you on our session. We welcome you and thank you very much. I would like to begin by requesting you to tell us a little bit about how you made your beginning in this field. I mean, theatre for children and youth, even today, is a theatre which somewhere has to struggle to get its required recognition. So, what motivated you, say around 30 years back, to make a beginning in this field? Could you please tell us something?
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this session. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you about 1 hour or a bit more. And thank you, Dipti, for your nice words introducing me. Yes, what was the beginning? In the beginning, there was my interest just from when I was a young boy. I think with 6 or 7 years. I found or had my first encounter with puppet theater. And I was absolutely impressed by this art form. What I was watching when I was 7 years old was a very traditionally puppet theater performance with marionettes. It was the full illusion. And I was completely deep in this experience of theater, and this was the moment when I started to work on this dream to be a practitioner in puppet theater. And then I started together with some classmates to organize a theater group at school, and we played a lot of plays for children of our school, and later on also for children from the region. Then when I became a bit older, I started to think about my profession. What would I do for in my life, in my professional life? And I searched for a study to work in puppet theater. First, or in theater in general. First, I tried to become an actor, but they told me at the actor school that I don't have any talent for the stage, and so yeah, that was a very hard experience, but it was a right experience because they said the truth. I'm not an actor at all, And so I decided to study theater studies, dramaturgy, in Berlin, in East Berlin at the Humboldt University. And I started my studies in 1984. And I finished the studies in 1989. It was a 5 years diploma study. And during my studies, I already specialized in puppet theater with a lot of work, internships in puppet theaters. And in autumn 1989, I went to a city which was called at this time Karl Marx Stadt, city of Karl Marx, which is now known as Chemnitz, with its older name Chemnitz. It's in Saxonia in the eastern part of Germany. And there is and was a municipal puppet theater. And I started as a dramaturg in this theater, became the deputy director of the theater. And then I went to Berlin. There was a call to establish in Berlin the puppet theater that you already mentioned, Die Schaubude, which is a puppet theater without a known ensemble, which we had in Chemnitz. But for guest performances and for making its own productions with guests. And in this theater, I was for 4 years before I came to Frankfurt to become director of the Children's and Young People Theater Center. And your question about my way to the young audience is about this connection with puppet theater, because puppet theater in Germany, and I suppose around the world, is also a theater for young audiences, especially for children, but also a theater for adults. And so it was not my intention to work in the field of theater for young audiences in the beginning. But in my practice, I had a lot to deal with these questions about young audiences. And so I came to Frankfurt. This was also a call for application. I did my application for this job here in Frankfurt. And in 1997, I started as the director of the center.
Mm-hmm. And I believe you were also for a long period of time the chairperson of this organization which works for the cultural development of children and youth.
Yes, this is the Federal Association of Arts Education in Germany. It's an umbrella organization with over 50 organizations as members. And these organizations, the member organizations, are themselves very large organizations and associations on a federal level, but also on a state level in the federal states. This organization is a very important network for arts education in Germany, not only for theater, but also for literature for children, music for and especially with children, circus, dance, fine arts, and so on. There are a lot of fields, media education as well. This is a very important network to, especially for the professional exchange about all the matters of arts education or cultural education. Because this is Also, if all the politics speak about the importance of this field of arts education or of cultural education for children and young people, it's still a marginalized field. It is not in the center of, in the focus of politics. And it's for every organization and for every organization that is dealing with this matter, it's a hard struggle for funding, for federal funding, but also for funding from municipalities or from the federal states. To work for the children and for young people. And therefore this association, this federal association, is also a lobby organization for this field. And we did a lot of political lobby work, and they do it still. I was there 20 years in the board, and for the last 9 years until 2018, I was the president of this organization.
Okay. I would also like to mention that we have been joined in this meeting by Vibhavari Deshpande, a famous actor, writer. Welcome, Vibhavari, and we will also get some questions and comments from Vibhavari during this session.
Hi.
Thank you for joining.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
I have another question, Professor Taube. As you say that a lot of efforts right from, I think, the 70s have been put into institutionalized children's theater in Germany. I would like to know, when Germany already had such an established theater culture, why was the need felt to institutionalize and establish children and youth theater separately?
Yes, that's the question that we have to answer every day in our practical work. Why do we support special theater specialized in theater for young audiences? We have a very large and very broad developed theater landscape in Germany. It comes from history, with a lot of theaters funded by municipalities, by the federal states, but also a very large independent theater scene. And in my opinion, it's still necessary to have this special focus on young audiences, because there's no difference between theater art for adults and theater art for children and young people. The only difference is the age of the young audience and their, let's say, or let's call it, special needs, the special efforts to bring them matters, subject matters, and stuff that it's interesting for them, and it's connected to their daily life, to their life reality, to their experiences, to their dreams, and so on. And I'm convinced that it's necessary to have a special awareness of these needs and of these dreams and of these experiences of children and young people. And this special awareness, you don't have or you don't get in theater studies. You can, but you need practice, and you need a very special feeling for children and young people. And therefore, and for another reason, that children and young people do have the right to participate in culture and in theater. It's necessary to give them the chance to attend theater and be part of the audience of theater. And the adult theater see children or so. We have to speak from the past because it changed a lot also in adult theater in Germany in the last 10, 20 years. But they saw in the already, still in the 90s, they saw the young audience only as the audience to be entertained, like with fairy tales in the Christmas time, Christmas pantomime, and so on. This has also a long tradition in Germany. This performances for children, especially for children and families in the Christmas time. But theater for young audiences is much more than theater for Christmas time, because it should be part of the life of children, like the adults that are used to go to theater once a month or 2 times in a year to see opera, to see a drama. Also children and young people should have the chance to include theater experiences in their life, and not only in a one period in the year.
So, if I understand you correctly, there is really not much difference in the practice of theater for adults and for children when you think of the aesthetics.
Yeah, of course, it's a difference, but in the end, it's both a theater. Both is a live art, performing art, where actors playing for an audience. And all the rules of theater are the same in theater for adults and theater for children. But in theater for children, there is the special awareness of the audience. My thesis is that theater for adults don't need to have the adult audience every time in the mind during the rehearsal process. There is a very strong focus on aesthetics, on how they will bring a certain drama or a certain piece on stage. And in children and youth theater, you have every time to think about, or you have to think about the young audience already during the rehearsal process. Also, the practice to have a special group of children that are connected with rehearsal process, and they see sometimes rehearsals and give a feedback for the professionals. It's a different work with and for the audience. And in theaters for young audiences, we have also a very strong department of theater pedagogics, where we have where children and young people get the opportunity to be on stage itself as actors and as creators. And this is a very large field of experiences for theater practitioners, because they are so close in contact with this young audience, in this work with this young audience. And this gives an impact on the artistic work for children and young people. It's like kind of research, but it's a practical research. And this keyword research is also important. I'm not saying that in theater for adults there is no research, but Dipti, you really know very good the Cripps theater and the emancipatory theater, which developed in the 70s and 80s of the last century, especially in Berlin. And there was a very important part of their work was the research in the living field of children and young people to bring such matters on stage that are really connected with interests and with experiences of children and young people. And for me, this research, this every time thinking about the audience and about the special needs of the audience, this is for me one reason why it's necessary to have this specialized theater.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Also, whenever I have visited a children's theater here, I have mainly seen children come as a part of their class to the theater accompanied by their teachers. What would you say about the role that theater plays in education today in Germany?
There are both, or yeah, at least both aspects. The one aspect is the schools and school education has its own tradition in dealing with theater, the so-called school theater, playing theater in schools, playing theater in workshops that are connected with schools. But also since 20 years, we have in the different federal states, it's different, but we have in general, let's say in general, the class subject theater or playing theater at school, and you can make examiner in this field, and it's a part of the classes, of the class subjects in school. And this is one part where children and young people, the students of schools, can be itself actors in theater plays and in a very special school theater scene. And to visit theater performance is a second part or a different aspect of theater, of the connection of theater and school. And this is, in our opinion, and I speak about the center, but also about ASITESH intentions. In our opinion, this is a very important mediation between school and theater. To go together with the classmates in theater and have together a theater experience. And it has not to be part of the curriculum of the school. It can also be yeah, also an add-on to all the other stuff they have to do at school, and a very different experience from learning at school. In a theater performance, as an audience, as a member of the audience, you everybody, not only children, but also we as adults, learn something. We learn it without knowing that we learn something. We go in connection with the subjects. We feel with the persons on stage, with the characters. We are angry about decisions that they make, and so on. And this is a very different approach to education than you have in school, where you have a very rational approach. You have to learn mathematics and writing and reading and physics and so on. And in theater, you are, as a human being, dealing with matters of human life. And it's a very, yeah, you have, sometimes it's an irritation, and you have a very different view on the world than you have in real life. And therefore, it's a kind of education. But it's not the same education that you have at school, but it's connected.
This ability of making people, audience, a part of the performance, kind of motivating them to react. This is a part also of, this is also a different kind of education than the education we normally get in our classroom teaching is. What you're trying to say? I'm just trying to understand this difference between education in a classroom and in a theater as education.
Yeah, in the classroom, education is about telling some rules about physics, understanding how some chemical reactions function, and make this in abstract formulas and so on. In theater, there is theater gives you a different view on the world, on reality. It's more a philosophical approach. It's an approach, you don't have to read something, you don't have to learn words like in English classes. You have just to experience, just to feel, just to hear, and with all your senses to experience what happens. And this is what I mean. It's completely different to learning in the classroom.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving to the different kind of theater formats that are available in Germany, could you tell us what are the different ways theater is practiced? Like, I know there is theater for youths and for children and also for babies. And then there is a lot more beyond this division. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, this is a development over the last 20 or 15 years. That theater for young audiences is not anymore still or only drama theater with actors playing theater plays, written theater plays. Already since also 50 or 60 years, we have puppet theater as part of theater for young audiences. And this forms of puppet theater are also included in this wide field of theater for young audiences. In the last 10, 15 years, theater for young audiences starts to open for different aesthetical means, like dance theater, like music theater. And music theater doesn't mean opera, but means dealing with new music, with newly composed works for children and young audiences. We have also this broad field of performing arts, performances, which are not performances based on scripts, but performances that are developed in a common rehearsal process of a theater company. We have, you mentioned it, the theater for the very young audience, children from 0 to 5 years, that also started, this development also started, yeah, almost 15 years ago, influenced by a lot of experiences from other European countries like Italy, France, or Scandinavia, because before there was not such a theater in Germany. It developed in the last 15 years, and that this opening this performing arts for young audiences is not only opening in this aesthetic as one under this aesthetic aspect, but also an opening of ages to bring this very young people to the theater and to give them the opportunity to experience this special form, this special art form. Yeah, it's you can say, or in our discussions in the last years, we changed the term from theater for young audiences to performing arts for young audiences, to mention all the different art forms that are included in theater for young audiences, and there are a lot of more formats, like so-called audio works, where you have a site-specific theater form in a certain landscape, in a city, in a certain area of a city, where you have earphones and hear some sounds and texts, and walking through a certain area. You have performances which we tell Erzähltheater, we could translate.
Narrative theater.
Yes. Yeah.
Theater with narration as a main.
Yeah. Where the narration of the actor and the imagination with its words and his gestures is in the middle of the performance. We have classroom theater, a very special form that theater comes in the classroom, but it's not a theater setting in the classroom with all the props that you have on stage, but they use the classroom as a social room because it's the meeting room and the living room for the students for a very large part of their lifetime during their school time. And they make this room, this social room for 1 hour or for 45 minutes to a theater place, to a theater room, and have special subjects, especially dealing with school situations, but also general subjects.
Mhm.
So this is just an insight in
Definitely.
what different forms are existing.
This classroom theater you talked about, is it the professional theater artists going to the classrooms and
Yeah.
working, or is it the
Yeah.
children, school
Yeah.
children doing this?
No, professional artists do this, and these are situations that a certain character comes in the classroom and tells its story. There are very often monologues because just one person, or dialogues, just two persons that are playing, and they realize that there is an audience, that there are all the students, and they speak with the students and involve them in the performance. There are no special lights. There's the daylight like you have in a classroom, but they establish this theater situation in this room, which is completely different, defined, and it's also and this is the irritation, the aesthetic impact that the theater gives to deal with this room and to bring a very different experience in this room.
Okay. Now, talking about the landscape of theater in Germany, most of the cities have a central theater for all audiences, but most of the cities also have a central Junges Theater, as what it's called, a theater only dedicated to performing arts for children and youth. And then there are also other groups doing theater. So could you give us an idea about this public and private theater landscape in the cities here?
Yes, this is connected with this question about why do we need a specialized theater for young audiences. We have at the moment around 70 departments of young theater, which are departments of municipal theaters or state theaters. And most of them also have a own theater space, their own venue, not playing in on the large stage or in the main stage of the theater, but have a own theater space in the theater house or on another place in the cities. But beside, we have also over 100, I suppose there are 150 or 200 independent theater. Large independent theater with also own theater venues, but also small theater, independent theater with 1 or 2 persons. And these theaters are mobile theaters. They are going to kindergartens, playing at schools or at other venues that offer guest performances. And we have also 5 self-contained large theaters for only for young audiences, not as a department of a municipal theater, but as a self-contained theater for young audiences. There's a great diversity in structures of this theater in Germany, and the theater departments are mostly located in cities, in smaller or larger cities. But the independent theater that works as mobile theaters are also going outside of the cities, in the countryside, and giving children living there also the opportunity to experience theater. And yeah, this is a very diverse system, and not all of these theaters are subsidized by state or municipal authorities, but a lot of them get fundings, full fundings, like the departments at the state and municipal theaters, or partly fundings, like some independent theaters that not get their full income from fundings, but also a large part of fundings.
That theater gets so much of state support here in Germany is also thanks to the efforts of the Asite Germany and the center where we are today, the Children and Youth Theatre Center. So could you please tell us a little bit about what is Asite Germany, and what is the Center for Children and Youth Theatre in Germany? What are its functions?
Asitesh is, I suppose, it's also known in India, because also India has an Asitesh Center. Asitesh is a worldwide working association for theaters that are working for young audiences. I don't know the exact number at the moment, but it's around 90 or 95 countries of the world. We have national centers of Asitesh. Asitesh Germany is such a national center, has around 400 members. This mostly theaters that are members of Asitesh, but also persons, single persons as professionals working in this field. And Asitesh Germany is also a very important lobby organization for theater, for young audiences in Germany. But Asitesh Germany has also, or part of the work of Asitesh Germany is also to be the legal body of the Kinder- und Jugendtheaterzentrum, Center for Theater for Young Audiences. This is also a very important part of the work of Asitesh, to give our center the possibility to work and to support the theater practitioners in Germany with a lot of activities. But also Asitesh Germany has its own activities, like workshops held on several theaters dealing with special subjects that are of interest, subjects of interest for the work, for the professional work of in the theater practice. The center works for all forms of theater for young audiences. We not only for the members of ASSITESH, but for everybody who is working in this field. Our task is to support the development of theater for young audiences in Germany, which means to give to give impact impulses to the professional discussion about theater for young audiences, giving opportunities for the professional exchange of all the people working in this field, giving the opportunity to reflect the development of this kind of art for young audiences. And so we have some projects that we do every 2 years or every year, like our festival you mentioned in the beginning, Augenblick mal, which is the national festival, the only national festival of theater for young audiences in Germany. And we show 10 performances from whole Germany. And this performances itself should give aesthetical impulses to theater practitioners, but also are subject of reflection about the art of theater for young audiences. Another part of our program is the Frankfurt Forum Young Theater, which was for over 30 years known as Frankfurt Playwrights Forum, where we promoted and supported playwriting for the theater for young audiences. But since last year, we decided to change this concept, and now this forum is not only focused on playwriting, but it's focused on the whole work, the whole artistic work, which is done in theater for young audiences. And the forum deals with a lot of subjects, practical subjects, but also theoretical subjects of the theater form. Shall I?
Meaning, for example, you mentioned about this festival, Augenblick mal, just a moment. It has also 5 curators, if I have rightly introduced, which means it has various ancillary programs apart from showing performances. Those programs, could you please tell us a little bit about them?
The program which the curators do, or
yes,
yes. Yes, this is our idea to bring the expertise of a lot of different professionals and professional perspectives together to create the festival program. There are different ways to make a festival program. You can have 1 or 2 artistic directors traveling around, looking and deciding what performances they invite. But we do this with this 5 curators that work as a collective of curators. They work together. They normally, I have to say, because in this pandemic situations they couldn't, but normally the curators are traveling a lot all over Germany, watching performances of theaters for young audiences. And this performances are proposals of the theaters themselves. We ask all theaters in Germany that are producing for young audiences to propose us 2 performances for children and 2 performances for young people. And these performances and the theaters should decide performances which are, in their opinion, are like models for their philosophy of theater for young audiences. And from these proposals, this year for the next year's festival, we got around 200 proposals. The curators watch all the performances and then make their decision of these 10 performances that they will that they propose us to invite, and we invite these performances to our festival.
And I believe apart from these programs, there is also the magazine XYZ, which is published, I believe, once in 3 months.
Yeah, every 2 months the magazine, and 1 time a year the yearbook, which is a bit has a bit more pages than the magazine. And yes, the magazine is this is a new constellation since 2 years. The magazine is published by Acetesh Germany and edited by the center. And so we have the perspective of the Association of Theaters, Acetesh, and we have our perspective as people working in the field of supporting the development of theater for young audiences. And yeah, this is a very important medium for all the professional discourses. It could set subjects for the professional discourse, give space for the discussion, and informs about new tendencies and new developments in the theater for young audiences. And let me make a little bit promotion of this issue because it's in English language, and you can also download it. You don't have to buy it. There is a free download link, and I will give this link to Dipti, and you can distribute this to your Facebook friends and so on, and all the people watching us now.
Yeah. Could you show the book once again, please?
Yeah, please.
It is called IXYPSILONZETT. That's okay. XYZ in German, and we can download
in German.
Okay, and we can download it from the, I believe, the website of the Children and Youth Theatre Center.
No, from the website of the publishing house, and I give you the link, and you can give.
I can, yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah. At this point, I would like to invite Vibhavari. She has some comments and a question. Vibhavari, please.
First of all, thank you very much. It was a very informative and a very interesting session so far. I just have a couple of questions. One question is, what I know from what I heard right now, the theaters are state funded. Some are entirely state funded. Some are partially get funds from the government. So, have you experienced that you might want to say something that may or may not be in sync with what the ideologies, socio-political ideologies of the government are at that point of time? Do you have the freedom to still say what you want to say, or there is a pressure which you need to deal with? There are people you need to convince, because it's very evident in India, and none of our theaters are state funded. So yes, we don't have the money to do what we want to do, but we still can really do and say what we want to, though it may not sync with what the ideas of the governing party are. This is
Yeah.
very evident in our case. So
Yeah.
what's the situation with that?
In Germany, we have in our constitution, in the federal constitution, the article about the freedom of the arts. And therefore, the governments, the federal government, but especially the state government of the federal states and the municipal authorities give money to the theater, and the theater decide what they do. There is no impact of you have to do this, this, and this, and this. Of course, there are several programs where you can apply for funding. And these programs may have special subjects. And you have to do artwork which deals with this subject. But how you do this and what you are saying on stage or what you are telling your audience, it's completely free. There is no impact of governments or other authorities.
Not even indirect or not even subtle pressure of any kind.
Sorry?
I mean, there's no indirect impact or a subtle pressure of any kind. You have all the freedom about what you want to say. Yeah. That's incredible. There's
the only thing is if a theater don't get so much audience, so don't sell so much tickets. Just let's say they have 1,000 places in their house, and every evening only 100 people are coming. After several time or sometime, the authorities will ask what is wrong with the theater, that the audience will not come to the audience, because this money that they give to the theater is that the theater plays for the citizens of the city or of the federal state. And so it's important that they also have the audience in the theater. But this is the only reason that authority could say, so we have to think about our funding. But normally they change the artistic direction and not cutting the money.
All right. There's one more question I would like to ask. As we know that in last 20 years or so, with the internet coming and the various media of entertainment for children, there's this influx of very dynamic, very, 5D, 4D, 3D audiovisual inputs, the games and the television shows. So have you seen a striking difference in the way children and young adults perceive theater, especially in last 10, 20 years? Is there a decrease in the number of young audiences that might choose theater as a form of entertainment, or it's still the same? Or has it given you challenges as creators of theater pieces to challenge their imagination or give them something different or more than what they would might get from their games and
Yeah.
television or
Yeah.
other forms of entertainment.
Yeah.
How has it been a challenge as a theater?
Yeah, one point that's very very basic point is that the way of concentration and the ability to concentrate changed. I hear this from a lot of theater makers, especially when the young audience is online during the performance and checking Instagram and so on. That's really a challenge. So you could say it's forbidden to have the mobiles with you in the theater room. But I suppose that's not the right way, because you will not, this is not a friendly act. Because for adults, you also accept that they take their mobile in the theater room, and also adults use it during the performance. That's not only a problem of children and young people. That's one point. Another point is, I don't know, 10 years ago, started this discussion. We have to change our way of narration to connect with the narrations that children and young people are used in other media. Especially in internet media or in games. This was a very important discussion. But I suppose this is the wrong direction to react on this development of media, because theater has to remember its own strengths, and its own strengths are especially the connection, or the live performance, the live connection with people sitting in the audience and people on stage. And this this communication, which is different from communication on internet or other media, and we should and I see this on stage very often, that theaters count on this special or this particularity of theater, and not trying to pretend we are like a video game or so on. The third point, and this is, I think it's a good way and a good development, is to deal with all these opportunities that digitalization gives, technical possibilities. I know that there are experiments with WhatsApp that could student or the audience can influence the performance via WhatsApp messages. So you connect with the communication of the young audience and the Gewohnheiten, the
habits.
Sorry.
Their habits, everyday habits, perhaps, of using the phone.
Their habits and communicate. And another way is all the plays at the theater plays dealing with this internet subject. And bringing the also problems that young people could get with this special communication forms on stage. And a third point I observed is the adaptation of structures and also of narration forms of games, especially in theater plays, but in written texts, so that you have a connection between the dramaturgical structure of the text and video games like levels or different rooms and rooms where things can happen that not happen in real life. So these are the influences, and yes, of course, theater for young audiences has to be aware of this change of habits of communication, but yes, with some care and not just to change its own philosophy of theater.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
We have 3 questions, if I may quickly ask those. We have these questions from Facebook, I believe. Vidula Sonagra asks, have you found a play in a language other than German or translated in German that you found particularly fascinating? And could you talk a little bit about your favorite playwrights?
Oh, I have to say, every 2 years we have our State Award, Deutscher Kindertheaterpreis, Deutscher Jugendtheaterpreis, award for children's theater and for youth theater. And this is an award for playwrights and for their the best plays that we find. And so I, every 2 years, together with my colleagues from the jury of this award, I have to read around 100 or 150 theater texts. And so I have a lot of favorite plays, and also a lot of favorite playwrights. And it's very, very hard to decide one. But I could speak about one play I was really impressed, because it's a play for young people by Martin Baltscheid, called Die besseren Wälder, the better forests, and which the characters of this play are all animals, and it's very unusual that you have in theater for youth, for adolescents, you have animals as characters. And this play speaks about a wolf that grows up with sheep, and not with sheep, but also as a sheep. And this is a very interesting constellation and invention by the playwright Martin Baltscheid. And then we see all these problems that comes on the daylight because of the nature of this wolf. Because outside he seems like a sheep, but inside he's still a wolf. And this is a play about identity and how I can find my identity, and that I cannot change my identity, but I have to accept it. And also all the other around me have to accept how I'm living and what I am. And for me, it's a very strong image for what happens with adolescents and when their bodies are changing, and when they start to become adults, leaving childhood behind, but not being already adults. Yeah, this is one example, but and it's not a very new example. But yeah, as I said, I could have more favors.
Okay, the writer is Martin Baltscheit.
Martin
and
Baltscheit,
yeah,
yes.
okay, and the play is called Die besseren Wälder, the better forests,
yeah.
something like that, the better
Yeah.
forests. Okay, thank you. Ella Marie asks, the use of drama in the school is oriented for the development of social skills or for learning of disciplines. Which aspect prevails?
The drama education at school is education through theater and education with theater and education for theater. And of course, you get a lot of skills in playing theater. To work together, to collaborate, to learn discipline, yes. But it's an example that some colleagues every time bring. You also can learn the skills with playing football or playing soccer. Collaborate, you have the 11 persons have to work together, they have to have discipline, they have to be self-contained and self-conscious, and so on. So that's why we know that we have all this impacts on people who are playing theater, especially on students playing theater at school. But the central aspect of drama education at school is to play theater and to open up creativity and to give room for creativity. Yes, the skills that you learn beside are important and helpful for your life. But this is not the reason why we do drama theater.
Okay. Dhirendra Dhiru asks, are you dealing with curriculum drama in schools?
In our center?
No, in general in schools in Germany, when plays are, I think he wants to ask curriculum drama, meaning plays which are a part of your curriculum, textbooks. Are they also either,
yes.
How are they a part of theater?
Yeah. Yes, this is also part of education, of school education in connection with theater. that you have in the German classes, which is German as the language. You learn German as language, grammar, and so on, and German literature or literature in general. And in this curriculum, you have, of course, in Germany, you have to read Goethe's Faust. This is this main the main book. It's
drama.
Also a theater play, but everybody who knows Faust know that it's really hard to read, really hard to discuss. Therefore, since 10 years, the curriculums also allow to deal with different theater texts, especially with theater texts from the theater for young audiences. So we have theater plays by Lutz Hübner, especially, that are, Lutz Hübner is a very well-known playwright in Germany, not only for young audiences, but also for audiences. It's a very successful playwright, and his plays are performed very, very often, not only in theater for young audiences. Some of his plays are also part of the school curriculum. But the school curriculum is, yeah, these are just options that the teachers can choose. You can choose different texts and not have to follow a special guideline or a special canon that they have to teach. But in general, the drama education at school dealing with theater texts deals especially with theater texts, classical theater texts like Goethe, Schiller, Lessing, but also with drama texts from the, let's say, classical modernism, from the first half of the 20th century, like Brecht, or other other playwrights.
Okay. What would you say? Karishma Tapasvi from Facebook asks, what would you say about the challenges that the area of Theaterwissenschaft, theater studies faces today? Any quick comments on that?
The challenge today
to Theaterwissenschaften,
yeah,
theater sciences.
Yeah, this is a really good and interesting question, because in comparison to my study time in the 80s, theater, especially theater forms, changed completely. Today we are speaking about the so-called post-dramatic theater, a theater which is not necessarily based on a dramatic text, with a theater which is a theater of bodies, a theater of objects, a theater of sounds, a theater of spaces. And these are the challenges of theater studies today, to have in mind that theater is not only drama. And during my study, we focused completely on drama, because this was the drama theater was the main theater form that existed. And in the last 40 years, this theater scene and all this means of expression changed completely. And theater studies have to take in mind this development. Also, what happened in dance theater, what happened with circus. Circus is also a performing art, and other popular art forms like musical, music theater, and so on. So yeah, I think if theater studies will be just in time will be contemporary theater studies, they have to watch on the practice of theater today.
And last question, Sachin Patil from Facebook, he asks, what is the ideal age according to you for kids to start exploring theater?
The ideal
age, the age.
An ideal age.
Age, yeah.
1
for
year.
Kids to 1 year.
Yeah, as I said, I think you can this experience of theater can start in every age, and not also in childhood or in youth, but also when you're 50 or 60 years old, you can explore theater and can make this new experiences in theater and get interested in theater. In childhood, I think if children start very early watching theater, go in contact with theater, this becomes more and more a very normal part of their life, and they want to see and watch theater. And this is a different approach than we have very often in theater visits with school classes, where it's an obligation for the students to go to the theater. And my opinion is it should be voluntary to go to theater. It should be my decision.
And perhaps that children will be able to make when they start watching theater as early as possible.
Yeah.
And in Germany, I've seen really fascinating performances also for children of several months. I think 8-9 months also can go and watch a performance. So that, I mean, it can be as low as a few months old.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think with this, we can conclude today's session. Thank you very much, Professor Taube, for your time and for sharing so many interesting and valuable insights of yours into your practice and into your experience, especially the worth of theater, which opens for each child and youth the possibility of a world of experiences, which perhaps in our very fast life somewhere doesn't get that kind of attention that we can experience in theaters, and hence theater is so important. You've explained very beautifully to us also the structure of children and youth theater in Germany and the institutional support that your center gives to the practitioners. So thank you very much. And thank you to our audiences for watching and for also asking the questions. Thank you, Vibhavari, for joining us today and for your questions. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.